In the Native America inquiry, students explore diverse sources to form a deeper understanding of the rich, varied cultures and histories of Indigenous Americans. Let's take a look at the key moments in the inquiry. Before you begin exploring Native America with students, consider informing caregivers about the inquiry using the provided inquiry launch letter. The hook lesson, Unpacking Perceptions of Indigenous American Cultures, is the first lesson of the launch module. During this lesson, you'll facilitate a mingle, pair, share discussion about how pop culture images have played a role in creating myths about Indigenous Americans and their history. Remember, there's no pre-teaching required for the hook lessons. Students are likely to encounter new words, new concepts, new content. Use that newness to spark curiosity and motivate students for the learning ahead. You'll begin to build your classroom's vocab wall, which will grow over the course of the inquiry. Finally, you'll introduce students to the inquiry question that will guide them through the investigation modules that follow. How can we better honor the cultural heritage of this land? In the second lesson of the launch module, Generating Investigation Questions, students will use the question formulation technique, a protocol for producing, improving, and prioritizing questions. During the protocol, you'll work with students to fill out the investigation questions anchor chart, which you'll display and refer back to throughout the inquiry. Remember, it's okay if students don't have many ideas yet. This is time for informal pre-assessment, not pre-teaching. After the launch module, you'll guide students through 4 investigation modules, each organized around an essential need-to-know question. How does a relationship to the land shape culture and ways of life? What can stories teach us about people and their environment? How can artifacts teach us about the past? How can comparing sources deepen our understanding of an historical event? Over the course of these modules, you'll work with your students to construct the Cultural Areas Collaborative Map, an inquiry-long display for student work and resources. This display acts as a living document that you'll add to and modify throughout the inquiry. It will serve as a tool to help students recall learning and draw connections to the inquiry question. Throughout these investigation modules, you'll also check for understanding using checkpoint assessments, which come near the end of a module. Remember, if you need support with the checkpoint assessment, you can always use the assessment guide linked in the lesson. Let's look at a few highlights from each of the modules. In Module 2, students use their research skills to make and present mini posters that describe life in different regions prior to colonization. In Module 3, students engage in folktales investigations to read, analyze, and summarize traditional Indigenous folktales. In Module 4, students practice their historical thinking and observation skills in the artifact reveal activity. Then they'll confirm or revise their ideas based on new expert information. Finally, in Module 5, students become historians and explore the first Thanksgiving from multiple perspectives through an interactive web game. At the end of Module 5, you'll help students get ready to turn their learning into action by reflecting on what they've learned, generating ideas for civic action, creating an inquiry challenge statement that addresses a specific challenge or opportunity related to understanding Indigenous people's history and culture. After Module 5, it's time to take action. Based on student interest, available resources, and your unique context, you'll choose an inquiry product that students will create to impact the community beyond their classroom. The possibilities are endless. Students could create and share a newspaper or magazine that teaches about the diverse and historical Indigenous American cultures. Construct and present dioramas that depict how the landscape and environment shape the cultural practices of Indigenous American peoples. Share and display true stories of the inspiring Indigenous Americans through a series of honorary portraits at a local history center. Whatever product you and your students choose to create, the lessons of Module 6 will guide you through the stages of the design process, culminating in students sharing their work and reflecting on their learning and accomplishments. One important step in the design cycle that you don't want to miss is co-creating a final inquiry product rubric with students. You'll base your rubric on objectives from the investigation modules, inquiry skills, and student-generated success criteria. And that's a quick overview of the Native America inquiry. Don't forget to submit samples of student work and photos of your students in action. Accessible from the Inquiry Hub portal at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Good luck on your inquiry journey.